just another Friday night, or at least that's what they thought. A group of friends, bored and looking for excitement, decided to drive to the edge of town. There, hidden behind overgrown weeds and twisted dirt paths, stood an old mansion. It had been abandoned for decades. Its windows were broken, the walls cracked and covered in years of dust, and the gate hung loosely, squeaking whenever the wind blew. To anyone else it might have seemed empty and forgotten, but tonight it felt alive. As they got closer, the air grew thick, almost hard to breathe. It wasn't just cold. It felt heavy, like it was pushing down on their shoulders. Shadows seemed to move where there shouldn't be any, stretching along the walls and slipping into corners. Every phone light they turned on flickered as if the house was playing with them, testing them, warning them to turn back. At first they laughed it off, joking to calm themselves, but then one of them froze and pointed at a window. For a split second they thought they saw someone staring back at them, pale and still, before vanishing completely. A shiver ran through the group, the kind that makes your stomach turn and your chest tighten. And then it happened. A scream, high-pitched, sudden, and filled with pure terror. It came from the front yard, and just like that, the night changed. What was supposed to be a simple adventure had turned into something much darker. Something was waiting for them, watching every move, counting every heartbeat. The friends finally reached the end of the overgrown path, where the mansion loomed in front of them like a shadow frozen in time. They parked their car at the edge, the tires crunching on the gravel that seemed to protest under their weight. The mansion looked worse up close. Windows were shattered, some boards hanging loosely, and thick vines crawled across the walls as if trying to pull the house back into the earth. The old iron gate creaked painfully with each gust of wind, groaning like a dying animal. After a few moments of hesitation, one of the friends took a deep breath and stepped forward. The moment he crossed the threshold, a chill ran down his spine, cold and unnatural, like the air itself was alive and pushing against him. The wooden floorboards beneath his feet groaned and creaked as if something heavy was moving just out of sight. Behind him, the others waited, their breaths shallow, but even from a distance they could hear soft whispers echoing through the halls. It wasn't coming from anywhere specific. It felt like the house itself was speaking, calling them deeper inside, daring them to move further into the darkness that seemed to stretch endlessly. The closer they got, the heavier the air became. Every step made their hearts pound faster, and shadows seemed to cling to the corners of the room, twisting and moving, just out of the corner of their eyes. Each friend tried to convince themselves it was just their imagination, but deep down, they all felt the same thing: they were not alone. Something was waiting for them inside, something that didn't belong in this world, something that had been watching for a very long time. The friends stepped cautiously into the dark halls of the mansion, their flashlights cutting narrow paths through the shadows. The air smelled old and musty, filled with the weight of years of neglect. As they moved further inside, one of them froze. On the walls there were strange scratches and marks, old newspapers scattered across the floor, and photographs pinned haphazardly, showing unknown people staring straight at them, with eyes that felt completely lifeless. It was the kind of stare that made the skin crawl, as if the people in the pictures were silently watching every move they made. Before anyone could react, a door slammed shut behind them with a deafening bang. One of the friends had been too close and now found himself trapped inside a small dark room. Panic spread quickly through the group. They called his name, but the walls swallowed their voices. Then, from somewhere above, a scratching sound began, slow and deliberate, coming from the attic. It was followed by faint, muffled screams that made their hearts pound. Every step they took toward the sound made it feel louder, closer, as if whatever was up there was aware of them. When they finally climbed the rickety stairs to the attic, they found it completely empty. No person, no animal, nothing that could have made the noises. The room was silent except for one horrifying detail: a single piece of paper stained with dried blood lay on the floor. Written clearly on it were their names. Every heartbeat in the group thundered in their ears as they realized that whatever had been making those sounds had known them, had been waiting for them, and was now marking them as its next victims. There was no logic, no explanation, only the chilling certainty that they were not alone. And the mansion was far more alive and hungry than they could have imagined. The mansion didn't feel the same as before. Rooms seemed to shift around them, hallways twisting in ways that didn't make sense. What was a door on the left a moment ago was suddenly a wall, and a hallway they had just passed now led them deeper into darkness. Shadows clung to them as if alive, moving closer when they weren't looking, always just out of reach but never letting them feel safe. One by one, the friends began to disappear. First it was a soft scream quickly cut off, leaving the others frozen in terror. Then another vanished while trying to call out, their voice swallowed by the oppressive silence. Every turn they took, every door they tried brought them back to the same room, as though the mansion itself was mocking their attempts to escape. The last survivor's heart pounded as he realized he was alone, and that's when he saw it, glimpses of a tall figure with glowing eyes moving silently in the shadows behind every corner. Every time he turned to run, it was there, closer than before, its presence pressing against him like a living weight. He ran down hallways that twisted endlessly, only to find himself back where he started, the same walls looming over him. And then he noticed it. The walls themselves were changing. Red numbers appeared, glowing faintly, counting down seconds. Seconds until something inevitable. Seconds until his own end. Every heartbeat raced faster as the countdown continued, marking the moments before the mansion would claim him completely. He screamed, but no one was there to hear, and no door let him out. Whatever had been stalking him was patient, methodical, and unstoppable. The mansion was alive, and it had chosen him as its final prey. The last survivor's hands were shaking as he stumbled into a small study tucked away in a corner of the mansion. Dust covered every surface and the air was heavy with the smell of decay. In the corner, hidden beneath a pile of torn papers, he found a small leather journal worn and cracked with age. The moment he opened it, the pages seemed to breathe, whispering faintly as if the house itself were reading over his shoulder. As he flipped through the journal, he realized it belonged to the mansion's last owner. The words painted a horrifying truth: the mansion fed on fear. Every scream that echoed through its halls, every terrified heartbeat of anyone who dared enter, strengthened the presence inside the house. Wasn't just a building, it was a predator, alive and hungry, and tonight it had chosen them as its prey. The journal went on to describe how the mansion had collected souls over decades, each one trapped, each one feeding the darkness, and tonight it was waiting again, waiting for new souls to complete its growing collection. The survivor's breath caught as he read the warning scrawled in bold, desperate letters. If you hear your name called in the dark, it's already too late. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but the mansion had already marked him. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows stretching longer and darker, and the whispering voices grew louder, surrounding him from every direction. There was no escape. He tried to steady his breathing, but every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the soft rustle of papers, even his own heartbeat felt amplified, like the house was listening, waiting for him to panic. The journal slipped from his hands as a cold draft swept through the room, and he realized with a sinking certainty that the mansion was not just waiting. It was ready. The last survivor's legs trembled as he ran toward the broken gate. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the air itself was holding him back. Shadows stretched from every corner, moving impossibly fast, reaching out with long, clawed fingers that seemed to pull at his very soul. His friends' faces appeared in mirrors along the hallway, twisted, screaming, eyes wide with terror. But when he blinked, they were gone, leaving only a hollow, mocking silence. Panic took over. He screamed their names, hoping someone, anyone, could hear him, could help him escape. The tall figure with glowing eyes was right behind him now, moving silently, unstoppable, each step pressing closer like the weight of the entire mansion. He lunged for the gate, but the shadows twisted, forming walls that forced him back, herding him toward a single, inevitable corner. The survivor's chest heaved, heart pounding so loud it seemed to echo through the mansion itself. He screamed his own name, a desperate plea into the darkness, and then silence. No movement, no whispers. Nothing but the echo of fear, still lingering in the air. The mansion finally went quiet, as if satisfied, waiting patiently. And then the quiet held a promise. Somewhere another group of unsuspecting thrill-seekers would arrive. They would laugh at the idea of an abandoned mansion, unaware of the deadly night that awaited them. And just like that, the cycle would begin again. The house alive and hungry, feeding on fear and leaving nothing but terror behind. If you think you can survive the night, Remember, fear has a way of finding you, and some doors once open never close. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that will chill you to the bone.